Hey everyone! Welcome back to another video. Today, I'll be discussing about numbers stored in computers. Simply put, a floating point variable can represent a wider range of numbers than what a fixed point variable can do, while using the same amount of bits at the cost of precision. While you may see that a 32-bit integer is maxed out at 2,147,483,647, or 2 to the power of 31 minus 1, or 4,294,967,295, which is if it's unsigned. However, a 32-bit float has a maximum value of about 3.4 times 10 to the 38, or 340 on the decillion. First, you need to know that computers don't work with base 10, like what most humans know how to count with. Computers mostly use binary with maybe some other bases like octal and hexadecimal, but we'll focus on binary. If you want to represent a number, let's say 4, to type that in binary would be 100, or 100, as the 1 is in the 2 squared spot, which is 4. If you do something like 111, that's 7, there's a 1 in the 2 to the 0, 2 to the 1 and 2 squared spot. Now you know that, this is how an integer works. It's pretty simple. For a 32-bit integer, there's 1 bit for the sign at the front. If it's 1, it's negative. If it's 0, it's positive. And 31 bits after that. For example, say you want to represent the current 32-bit Unix time, which is about 1,751,877,390 as of writing this. In a 32 binary, that's 01101001100110000001110. As for how floats work, it's more complicated. But basically, there's 1 bit for the sign, 8 bits for the exponent, and 23 bits for the mantissa. Say you want to represent 2 to the 20th power, or 1,048,576. How it works is you take the mantissa and put a decimal point in the very first digit, so it looks like this. Then, this is multiplied by 2 to the power of whatever the exponent is, in this case 147, minus 127, which is equal to 20, as the exponent starts counting from the smallest number. We represent using a 32-bit float, which is 2 to the power of negative 127. Now this is a solid way to represent numbers. There's a fatal flaw in the system as the numbers grow larger. Because computers don't have infinite bits, the number has to get truncated eventually. In this case, the 23rd digit after the decimal. This works fine up to right below 2 to the 24, or 16,777,215, which fills the mantissa, making it look like this. Adding more after this point can overflow into the exponent section, increasing the exponent from 147 to 151, in which we minus 127 results to 24. Remember how the mantissa can only store 23 bits? Well, this is a problem. 24 is greater than 23, so you can't represent every whole number anymore, forcing precision to be 2. Meaning after 16,777,216 is 16,777,218, and so on. This doubles for every power of 2, so by 2 to the 25th power, or 33,554,432, you can only go by 4. As said before, the maximum number that can be represented with a 32-bit integer is about 2 billion, or 4 billion if unsigned. However, with floats there are more than just one maximum somewhere. The first you'll see is the max safe integer, or the point in which after that you can't count by 1 anymore due to it having so much precision loss, making it to count by 2. As stated earlier, this point is about 16.7 million. After this, you can only count by 2, which means you cannot do 16,777,217. only 16,767,216 and 16,777,218. This precision loss doubles every power of 2, so by about 33.5 million is 4, meaning the next number is 3355446, and by just above 67 million is 8, and so on, until we reach the maximum number the float can actually represent, that being around 340 undecillion. Of course, there aren't only 32-bit numbers. Many arcade games back in the 1980s had 8-bit systems, meaning the maximum number representable is 255, as an 8-bit unsigned integer can only go from 0 to 255, with the signed 8-bit integers being negative 128 to positive 127. There are also 16-bit integers for when 8-bit integers are too small but 32-bit integers are too big. A lot of early computers used 16-bit a lot. Something like MS-DOS was primarily 16-bit, with some other operating systems being able to get to 32-bit, like Windows NT 3.1, released in 1993, which is supposedly the first 32-bit operating system. There are also larger types of numbers, like 128-bit, which has 1 bit for the sign, 15 for the exponent, and 112 for the mantissa, which makes the maximum number about 1.19 times 10 to the 4,932nd power. There's also 256-bit, which has 1 bit for the sign, 19 bits for the exponent, and 236 bits for the mantissa, making the maximum number about 1.61 times 10 to the 78,913th power. When you have an arbitrary number of bits, you can make insanely large numbers, way beyond even the volume of the observable universe, which is only about 3.566 times 10 to the 80 cubic meters. This is called big num, and there are big num libraries for certain programming languages, like JavaScript, in which there are multiple big num libraries for it, like Polyana num.js and Expand num.js, and many more. Even the 256-bit float from earlier, also known as an octuple precision float, pales in comparison to what those can do. At x 65,536, the block edges are slightly off. At x 131,072, they're more noticeably deformed. At x 262,144, precision is now 1/32 of a block. At x 524,288, the edges seem to warp around the blocks. At x 1,040,176, this effect gets worse, and now the textures start to break down, being 8x8 instead of 16x16. At x 2,097,122, precision is now only a quarter of a block, and you can definitely see that with the block stepping. At x 4,194,304, it's now only half a block, and you're getting close to the end of the renderable limits. And finally, at x 8,388,608, precision becomes a full block, and textures completely break. Here's some longer footage about how it looks like to explore around here. Here is an example of 64-bit floats instead of 32-bit floats. You can see how the precision is around 536,870,912 times better, or 2 to the 29th power. All of these numbers exist. Don't get your head wrapped around them, as you'll mostly see 32-bit and 64-bit values in the real world. Thanks for watching, consider dropping a like and subscribing to the channel for notifications on, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye!